Otaku Fujoshi Anime Curious, my name is RandomSama613 and welcome to Anime Opinions. The winter 2015 anime season has already concluded. I would say that overall it was a bit of a train wreck. Nothing really worth mentioning aside from a couple of series. But the spring 2015 anime season has already begun. And so far, it's been not bad. I'm not watching very many shows. I'm watching about 6, I think, at this point. But I already have one to talk about. And that show is going to be Plastic Memories. So Plastic Memories is obviously airing right now. It's done by Studio Dogakobo, which is a split off of Toei Animation. Yes, Toei Animation, who have given us such gems as Sailor Moon Crystal. But this is a completely split off separate studio. They're just affiliated with Toei. And as such, their animation quality is very good, actually. So, you know, having the Toei name associated with them is doing them no favors, but it's not hindering them in this case. They've done other shows such as Bridge to the Starry Night Skies, which I rather enjoyed. It's a visual novel adaptation. They also did series like Yuru Yuri, which is very popular, and Gekkan Shoujo Nozaki-kun, which I really enjoyed as well. So they have a couple different good shows under their belt, which really does help them. Plastic Memories is being directed by Yoshiyuki Fujiwara, who hasn't really done a whole bunch before as the primary director. He did direct Engage the Unidentified, which I didn't watch. Apparently it was okay. I don't have a first-hand experience on that. I'm just going off of what everybody else has said. And he's done some work on a bunch of other series, but he hasn't been the director, and he's also the screenwriter for this, I believe. And so far, I'd say he's done a very good job. The first thing I want to talk about with Plastic Memories is the animation quality and the soundtrack overall. The animation quality is actually pretty good. It's nothing to really write home about. It's nothing particularly special. I wouldn't say that compared to like Kyoto Animation or Bones in their heyday that it looks particularly great, but it doesn't look bad. It does the job. There's a couple strange things. The one that really kind of gets me is that there's a strange sheen over everybody. And I think that's just part of the aesthetic that they're going for. And I don't particularly like that sheen. I think it's distracting. But that's relatively minor. One of the decided upsides is the facial expressions of all of the characters. They're really expressive. They really help to kind of show the inner motivation of the character at that time in the scene. And I really appreciate that because some series have an issue with same face and characters who don't express as well, and that may just be an animation issue. But this series doesn't have that problem, and I think it's going to be really key to how well the series handles its subject matter. Just briefly touching on the soundtrack, I'd say that is a good soundtrack. There's nothing stand out yet. I think that it suits the mood of the particular scene with each track individually, and I think it does that very well. But other than that, nothing really to mention. So getting into the meat of the series, Plastic Memories is about a world where there are androids known as Griftia that exist, and they're fully sentient. They're basically they're in most aspects like humans. So these Griftia are sentient androids, but they only have about a 9-year lifespan. It's 9 years and 4 months, give or take. And after that, their personality and their memories start to unravel, and they devolve because they stop working correctly after approximately 9 years. And this is how we get into our main character. We're following the division of the company that makes the Griftia that goes and decommissions the androids before they start to malfunction and break down. So that's a really interesting concept, and I really like the idea of it, and I really like where the series can go with this, because the Griftia are basically indistinguishable from humans. This is established really early on within about the first 5 minutes of the show, is that you can't tell the difference between a Griftia and a human unless you know that the character is a Griftia or a human. And I think that's really going to open up a great way to explore what it means to be human and how you can justify an android who's sentient being property, essentially. I think that's where they're going to go with the plot. And I think that it'll be interesting to see that explored, so I'm looking forward to that for sure. One of the other aspects that I found interesting of the plot is that the owners of the Griftia basically have to sign a release form to let the Griftia go. And before that happens, the company can't collect the Griftia. So a big aspect of the job of the people we're following is to get the owners to sign this release form. Now, some owners willingly do this. They willingly just sign the release form and let the Griftia go before they start to break down. Others are more resistant, and that's another really key aspect of the show, is just showcasing how different people react to basically having this person who's been in their lives for nine and a half years or so basically just be taken away because they die, as it were. And that's a really interesting concept. I'm looking to see how well they explore that as well. One of the other aspects of the plot that I really want to address is that it has a mixture of comedic elements along with the serious elements. The way it's done is very tasteful for the most part, and I think that it does a really good way of when the tone gets really serious, it does do like a light comedic gag to kind of just bring everything back up to level. And I'd say this show does it fairly well. I wouldn't say that it's the best depiction of it I've ever seen, but it does it fairly well. I think that maybe some of the quality of jokes aren't as good as they could be, but that's more of a personal preference. I don't know that this is going to be a good formula for it to continue to follow. My gut feeling is that it's going to be probably do this for the first about half of the series, and then it'll probably get a little bit heavier, and they'll start to delve more into some of the issues I brought up earlier that they might try and talk about. So we'll see what happens there. But overall, I'm interested in where the plot's going to go, and so far it's been executed very well. So we'll see what happens with that. Just very briefly, I'm going to talk about some of the characters. We really only have two primary characters, as it were. We have Tsukasa, who is the main character. He feels very much like a main character. I wouldn't say he stands out in any way, per se. He basically he's the newbie. He's just hired into the Terminal Services branch, which is the branch that collects the Griftia when they're about to die, as it were. And he basically is bringing in a fresh perspective, and he's just learning how to do the job. And in that aspect so far, he hasn't stood out too much. His partner is Isla. She is a veteran Griftia. She has been doing this for a while. She seems to have a lot of personal quirks and eccentricities, and has issues with coming to terms with her mortality. And I think that that's going to be probably a relatively important focus of the show, is how Isla comes to terms with her mortality, and how Tsukasa facilitates her coming to grips with her limited lifespan, and how she knows how long she's going to live exactly, and how she comes to terms with that is going to be a big center point of this series, I think. Other characters I'm going to mention. The biggest problem I have with all the side characters is they feel like they've been borrowed from somewhere else. The one that I noticed immediately is Michiru. She's one of the other people who works in Terminal Services, and she's the one who's responsible for teaching Tsukasa. And she's a clone of Asuka from Evangelion, down to she has the same hair clips, the same hairstyle, the same attitude. She's a classic tsundere. And it feels like she's lifted directly from Evangelion. Now, that's not a bad thing. I just think that it's something that stands out to me. And I don't know that that's necessarily bad, or if it's good, or whatever it is. But she's an Asuka clone. So don't expect too much from that. And it feels like a lot of the other characters are just clones of other characters I've seen. So nothing particularly unique there, but that's sort of to be expected. And I'm not saying it's bad, that's just how it is. So we'll see how the characters develop. You have the section chief, who's just kind of lackadaisical and laid back. You have his assistant, who is really defensive of Isla because she is the former partner of Isla. So that's going to add another kind of aspect to the interactions that are had. There's some other characters that haven't really been touched on all that much. Overall, I'd say that Plastic Memories had a very strong first episode, and I'm looking forward to see where they take the plot and see where they go with it. Because it's an interesting concept, it's a harder sci-fi kind of take on things, and I love science fiction, so I'm really excited to see what they do with it and where they go with it. I'm hoping that the director does really well. I'm hoping that everything goes well, and I want the series to be good, because so far, I'm expecting good things from it. I wouldn't say that this was the best series for opening that I've seen, but so far, it's doing good, and I'm hoping it keeps that up. But what do you guys think? Have you watched Plastic Memories, or have you not? If you have any thoughts on it, please, by all means, leave a comment down below, letting me know what you think. You can also comment about what you think about the video. I know that I'm a little rusty, because I haven't been doing this as much. I've been kind of busy. But go ahead and leave a comment down below if you have suggestions on how I can improve the format. If you like the video, by all means, go ahead and throw a like on there. And if you didn't like the video, go ahead and throw a dislike. I'm okay with that. But by all means, if you do dislike or like either way, go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know what you liked or didn't. And I'll kind of try and modify the format a little bit and see what I can do to kind of meet the middle, as it were. If you want to follow me in between videos, I am at randomsama613 on Twitter. I do tweet fairly regularly. I do live tweet episodes sometimes, or I just tweet out random, crap about whatever I'm just doing. So I tweet that out. But until next time, I've been randomsama613. This has been Anime Opinions. Until then, watch more anime.